Welcome to another edition of From the Front Lines, where we discuss both the day-to-day and one-of-a-kind issues facing real estate managers. In this episode, IREM Manager of Member Engagement Brett Voeltz, CPM, talks to Jatonne Trianna, RPA, Senior Real Estate Manager with CBRE AMO, about property management as a career path. Now, here are Brett and Jatonne.
Thank you so much. Welcome, Jatonne. My name is Brett Voeltz, and I am IREM's Manager of Member Engagement. And I'm so excited here today to have this opportunity to talk to Jatonne. Rewind 7 years ago, I was actually getting my start in real estate management and entering the Northern Virginia chapter of IREM. Jatonne was one of those people that I kind of made a note, like, okay, what is she doing? What is Jatonne doing right now in her career? And how can I follow her path to be, to be as successful as she is? And Jatonne, I'm sure you'll talk about it, but you were a Diversity Inclusion Succession Initiative recipient. You were 30 under 30. I followed your path along those ways. I remember you taking me out to lunch one day to talk about your DISI experience and just shared your thoughts on the program with me. And I, am forever grateful for having that opportunity to connect with you. And again, coming full circle here, now you get to share your story with everyone else as well. So I'm so excited to have this opportunity and just wanted to give you a chance to introduce yourself before we get going. So Jatonne, over to you.
Thanks, Brett, and thanks, Todd. Thanks so much for having me. I'm very honored and flattered to be interviewed and part of this podcast to share my story. So, yep, I'm a senior real estate manager with CBRE right now, managing phase 2 of the Wharf. And I am currently still involved with Northern Virginia Chapter 77. And yeah, and you already mentioned all of my accolades with IREM. So yeah, I just really, I'm really lucky to really love my job. So that's about it.
Awesome. Yeah, and I think that testament can ring true for a lot of people about loving real estate management in kind of a weird way, right? Because it's not one of those career paths that maybe you select for yourself, but most people end up falling into it. But there are those career choicers where they know they want to get into real estate, and real estate management is that perfect segue into that industry. So the first thing I want to ask you is, how did you get into it, right? What was your background story? How did you first hear about real estate management? Was it a specific person that introduced you to the industry? Just share a little bit about your story.
Great question. So definitely fell into it. I was teaching at a special education school. I had background in that in my degree, and I was also part-time waitressing at a country club. And I was working at a wedding, and somebody had told me one of the members was looking for a administrator job, and I was interested. So naturally at 3 a.m. I get my resume together and send it over to this member for the interview. And I got a call the next morning super early, and he says, and he leaves me a voice message and saying, "What are you doing up at 3 a.m. on school night?" Because the next morning I'm teaching. So it was that, and I interviewed for the position, and I interviewed with a woman named Stacy Lauder, and she just knocked my socks off, and I was just like, I want to do what she does. And I don't even know anything about commercial real estate. I don't know about any of these terms that they're talking about, but I'm very interested in learning. So, I started out as a real estate service coordinator and worked my way up the ladder.
Awesome. Yeah, and I think anyone that knows Stacy can share the same thoughts as you just mentioned, that she's a champion for anyone that is both working for her but also connected with her in this industry. And she's definitely someone to kind of follow along and just see where her path took her, because like you said, she's been very successful and she likes to share that success with those around her as well. And kind of along those lines, right, like mentorship and networking is huge in this industry. And so you mentioned Stacy, but who are some other people that have maybe supported you along your career, and either as a mentor or maybe a coach or a sponsor for you, put your name out there when someone was looking for a position to be filled? Who were those people for you, and what was that relationship building like for you?
I think the other person that played such a pivotal role in my involvement with IREM nationally and just my career and me as a manager is Kasara Smith. Once I left as a real estate service coordinator and assistant manager at First Potomac, where I worked with Stacy, I got a job with Cushman and Wakefield working under Kasara Smith. And she was similar to Stacy. They were heavily involved with IREM and definitely pushed me to also be involved and make those connections. But Kasara took it a step further and got me to apply to be a diversity scholar and also to apply to 30 under 30. And I don't think without like that encouragement and opportunity, or even knowing about that opportunity from her, I would have never applied. So
Yeah,
she
it's
is.
I was going to say, it's definitely nice to have, even if you think you might want to apply for something, it's nice to hear it from someone else, right? Like saying, "Hey, I think you're pretty qualified for this." It's a good little confidence booster for sure, right?
100%. She definitely pumped me up. And I wasn't even aware of, those opportunities until she sent them to me and she said, I think you would be perfect for this and you should encourage me to apply, and helped me and reviewed my applications and kind of walked me through the steps. So
Yeah. And so how have those moments within your IREM, let's say call it career, right? Within your IREM experience, what did that do for you within the real estate management industry? You mentioned the Diversity, Inclusion, Succession Initiative, 30 under 30. I know there's been plenty of other things you've been involved with also in the local chapter. So what has that done for you in terms of your career development?
I think it's really helped me network with more of the people I know in the industry, not only locally, but nationally. So being involved and getting those accolades nationally, you get to attend the IREM Global Summit, and that's where you meet everybody in the industry,
Yeah,
and in IREM. And attending the Global Summit was such a fantastic experience because you're surrounded by people who are just as passionate as you are about the industry,
for sure.
and you it's almost like a reset button, or for me to go to the IREM Global Summit, because it just gets me so pumped up to be with all of the speakers and the educational classes,
Hmm.
um, to really be excited about going back to my day-to-day job, but a reset of, this is why I do this,
Yeah. Yeah, and I think I mean, I'm sure many people can share the same thoughts on that as well with just like Global Summit. There's just so much going on. And like you said, so many speakers, so many professional development opportunities that really, like, if you put your heart and soul into it, you're going to get so much out of it. And it reinvigorates you to understand, like, there's so many successful people out there in this industry that are connected as part of this organization. And it's instrumental to getting success on your end as well. And so outside of IREM, have there been other career highlights that you'd like to share with us? Any accomplishments that you're most proud of, whether at First Potomac, or I know you spent some time at Cushman and now recently at CBRE. Anything highlights so far?
Well, early on in my career, I think what really kickstarted me and I guess brought more attention to my capabilities in my career. I was part of as a real estate service coordinator, I was part of a submission to the Building of the Year award.
Oh yeah.
And
Okay.
yeah, the Toby.
Mm-hmm.
And we ended up winning the suburban office park low rise category, but we also won the grand overall prize
Wow.
winner of the Building of the Year. So that was a huge accomplishment to be part of a team that won that award. So I think definitely with my new role at CBRE and with my trophy buildings, that is one of my goals, to win a Toby and lead the team that wins.
Yeah. Good aspirations. And for those that are listening, the Toby is the Office Building of the Year award. That's put on by the local BOMA affiliate AOBA in the DC area. So, that's a great recognition, as Jatonne mentioned. The buildings across the Northern Virginia, DC metro area submit for this every year, and it's certainly a worthwhile experience to highlight the impact that you as a real estate manager are making on the properties that you're managing. And speaking of managing properties, right? That's what we do on a day-to-day basis as real estate managers. But not every day is the same. Obviously, I think that's kind of the one tried and true comment that people always say when they talk about real estate management is every day is different. But what about your day in the life, right? Like you're managing a brand new building. That's fascinating, right? What does that look like? What are the ins and outs of managing this new complex property, and what all goes into the day to day?
So I think when I first got the opportunity, I was like, man, there is going to be nothing wrong with this building. It's going to be perfect.
It's brand
And
new. What can go wrong, right?
exactly.
Yeah.
And it's the complete opposite. It's such a unique experience there. You have to go through the warranty period.
Oh yeah.
You find all sorts of things that development missed or that wasn't properly thought through in the design, and just really working through all of those issues that were missed, and tracking down the vendors that hold the warranty for certain systems in the building.
Right.
So going through that process was absolutely unique, and that's also why and what attracted me to this position, because not everybody has a chance to work on new development.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and as you already mentioned, every day is very unique. But I think that that's what I love about the job, because it's not so routine. And yes, you have your monthly deliverables and accounting and monthly reports and accruals, but it's what you're working on or the issues that arise like during the day. They're just not the same. And I think that's what I like, and it always keeps me on my toes.
Yeah, for sure. And you kind of talked about it too with, working with the development team, right? They had their job within the new build to basically develop what the building would look like, the interior, the exterior, all the systems that are going into it. And then they kind of just say, all right, property management, here you go, right? You're the real estate manager. You're going to manage this property, but you still have to interact with them on that day-to-day basis. And so what other teams, I think a lot of times people think of real estate management of just being like the landlord and you're just collecting rents. That's really the end of it. You maybe talk to your tenants once in a while, but really for those that are in it and for those that are interested in the career pathways, there's so much more to it. And so when you talk about like these different groups that you're working with, who are they, and like what kind of role do you play in the greater picture of the building management itself?
So of course, so in the new development, you do work with the development team, right? And then you work with your client, the asset managers, and then the leasing brokers who are working to lease the space up. And I think the wharf is a particularly different area
Okay.
to manage properly, because you also have to work with the retail managers, because that's
Mm.
different than us, the office managers. And
Hmm.
then you also have to work with the association that manages all of the common area in the wharf. So there are definitely different parties that specifically to my location that you have to collaborate with to help resolve issues or just inform them on what's going on at the property that may affect them as well.
Yeah. So all great points. And then to go a little deeper into that, what are some skills that you really had to learn, maybe that you weren't expecting to use as a real estate manager when you got into the position?
Man, that is a fantastic question. I think just to be very tactful in the way that you phrase things,
Yeah.
and say things in emails, or either instead of writing an email, maybe picking up a phone and calling somebody. It's really simple things that this might not be the best email that I'm about to send. Maybe I can just pick up the phone and call them and
Smooth
talk
it over
through.
a little.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and just like talk through it with them and have a conversation. Then we can come up with a plan together. And then also just really thinking through. I think it's really easy to get into the routine of, you just want to get something done. But when you're working with so many different teams, you have to really think further of how does this affect others? And
Hmm.
who else do I need to inform? Or maybe before I make the final decision, I need to check in to see if this works for everybody else. So really thinking outside of just your immediate, I need to get this done, and versus bigger picture of how, yes, getting this done, but I need to check with all of these other departments and groups of people to make sure that this is going to work properly.
Yeah, great points. And then talking about the bigger picture, what's your bigger picture, right? Like you've made your way. You're a senior real estate manager, right? That's awesome. I think what, 8 years into your career, and you've just continually pushed yourself. You've pushed the limits. You've kind of shown, hey, maybe I don't have the skills now, but I will work towards it. To what you talked about earlier, you took on this role at CBRE because you knew it would be a challenge for you. You knew it would take something that you haven't experienced before, but you were willing to put in the work. You were willing to put in the time to really stretch yourself and understand that there's so much more as a real estate manager that you can do. So what does that look like, let's say 5 years from now, 10 years from now? What are your immediate career goals? What does the future look like in your mind, and how do you see yourself getting there?
So I think similarly to the people who helped me along the way, a mentorship is, and just mentoring other real estate managers on how they can do better, and just
Hmm.
spreading the word of other opportunities and getting involved with IREM, just mentoring and managing younger professionals so I can help them to be successful in the industry as well.
Yeah.
So nobody teaches you how to be a manager. Everybody just kind of figures it out.
Yeah.
Um, but I think, fortunately, I've had fantastic mentors and managers in my career. So I want to be able to share my experiences and knowledge, and like those who did before me,
Hmm.
whether, wherever I'm at. I'm not sure if it will be still in Washington, D.C., but definitely exploring and maybe managing real estate in a different city is in the future for me.
Yeah, cool. Do you have like a dream building that you'd love to manage?
Wow, I'm managing it.
Good one.
Yeah, so I mean, when I first saw the phase 2 of the wharf, I was oohing and ahhing about it, and
Yeah.
this was a big deal for me. So right now, this is the biggest and nicest property I've managed, and no, I think this tops it for now.
Awesome. And so kind of speaking to that, if you don't mind sharing, how did you make that transition from Cushman and Wakefield over to CBRE? And was it simply because you knew you wanted to manage that building, and so that's what sprung it? Or was there something else like along the lines help propel you into this new role?
I A friend told me about the development at the wharf and
Hmm.
how the phase 2 is going to be opening, and told me about CBRE managing the office,
Yeah.
and they had a couple openings. And when I saw the properties, yeah, that was the light
Hook,
bulb that
line, and
went off.
sinker.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was it. And then I started doing a little bit more research of who I would be working under, and
Hmm.
a little bit more about CBRE. So David Thompson supervise or oversees the portfolio at the wharf here, and I just heard nothing but good things about him.
Oh,
So
good.
it's sometimes it's definitely, it makes your job a lot more enjoyable, to work for somebody who is so knowledgeable and easy to work with. So he definitely has a very good reputation, and working with somebody who's been at this development since it started was it. I mean, he's been here from the beginning, so
Hmm.
it was such a good opportunity to learn from somebody else. And yeah, but to answer your question, in short, it was the property.
Yeah.
It was the property that got me over here. But CBRE is a fantastic real estate company to work for.
Love hearing that. And it's great when it's always it's an unknown, right? You want to you see this new job potential and it's like, I'm comfortable where I'm at, but maybe I could be more comfortable, or maybe I'll be less comfortable, or who knows what will happen, right? But like, you just at certain points have to make that decision for yourself. And it's obviously worked out very well for you. So, our cheers and hats off to you for making that jump and making that move, because we know it can be a little stressful, especially in a new property. And then lastly, just what's your advice for anyone that's considering real estate management or looking at a career in the real estate industry? You talked about mentorship, like getting a mentor early on. What other advice would you give someone that's considering going down a pathway that maybe you did?
Well, of course, get involved with your local IREM chapter.
Good
I
plug.
think yeah. I mean, honestly, that I've met so many people through IREM and like even nationally, like I wouldn't be where I am now had I not been involved in IREM, and people start to know you and know your name, and just making sure like when again, like I worked my way up, and I don't know how anybody else does it. But a lot of people go from residential into commercial, but either way, just getting your credentials, your RPA, your CPM, that always helps, sets you apart from other professionals. And then once you get involved with your local IREM chapter, then start looking to the national IREM and go to the global summit if you can, and get involved. I don't think I can stress that enough.
Yeah. And then you get friendly emails from, our team is saying, hey, you want to be on our podcast?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's super flattering.
Yeah.
It's nice to be recognized. And you don't really, I guess I don't really acknowledge, as much as I have accomplished through my career. And it's a nice reminder that I have come a long way.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes it's hard to realize, how many years have passed since you got into it, and how much really, day to day, it all adds up. It all just kind of, you go through the motions, you go through the next steps, you have a development, you have a capital improvement project. Something's going on at all times that really, you do so much, you forget that it all adds up to such a impactful career. So again, we're super happy to have you and for you to share your story. And we just want to thank you for taking the time today. We welcome you to continue to share your story on LinkedIn and wherever you're at. And we love to share our members' experiences as well. So again, Jatonne, thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking the time today, and can't wait to continue following along your career journey.
Thank you, Brett. Thanks so much.
Visit irem.org for more knowledge to take on real estate management's most dynamic challenges. That's www.irem.org.